Thanks, Errol. Oh, yeah, I'll give it.
They didn't make one for you then, huh?
I usually print it out. I just, when you called me, I just had it read out the door. I didn't take time to print the thing. I'm ready when you are.
When you're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You can start. I've reviewed this. I just, I'm glad I have a copy.
I will call the meeting to order at 6:12 p.m. October 2nd, 2024. Roll call. Door. Yeah. Rainey. Yeah. Spritti. Here. Just please stand. And before we say our pledge of allegiance, in the last 60 years, we've seen a falling away of us as a nation. And in recent times, it's come more to light. And I'd like all of you to pray for me, pray with me, for us as a nation and all the people in Appalachia who have their lives upturned by the recent flooding. So if you would pray. Our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the pledge. Flag is
the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
We're here to consider an application by Hemlock Homes submitted on behalf of Chris and Rachel Blackburn, seeking the following expansion of a single-family dwelling, which is a non-conforming use located at 79 Lutan Road in 84 PA, an EM1 zoning district. That's variance request according to Section 180, Article 3, Section 17, Version 9, 15. And now we'll have public comment time. Anybody please step up. Any public comment?
My name is Andy Burchin. I would like to speak and give my opinion of what happened. I did the original building permit for Mr. Blackburn.
Mr. Burton, real quick, is this, Greg, are we going to call this public comment, or if this is testimony, we should have him be sworn?
This is just public comment.
You could do it now and just be at one time.
Yeah, everybody. So anybody that plans on giving any statements or testifying here today, please stand and raise your right hand, and the court reporter will swear you in.
Swear the testimony you're about to give
I do.
I'm sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Once again, my name is Andy Burchin. I was the code enforcement officer and zoning officer at the time of the building for Mr. Blackburn. At that time, I took the map to say A1 on the left side of Route 10 Road, and on the right-hand side of Route 10 Road, M1 Industrial. Building permit was issued under A1. It was then given to Mr. Gribb, and at that time, if he had a problem with it, he should have said something then. He approves the building permit and the inspections. Thank you.
Spell your last name for me, sir. I-N.
Dave Wiltrout, 34 Hod Summit Road. I don't think we'd have an issue today if it wasn't for Chris's last name, honestly. I mean, I know that kid since he was small, played baseball, football. I coached him. He's a fine young man. And I mean, that's what we want in our township. Everybody talks about what we want, youth and everything, bring people in. Well, you're trying to deny this kid, a young family man of everything. I mean, I just don't understand it. It's like, this is what this township's lacking, common sense. It's like, I don't care if it's fine, he had a dwelling already. Now I'm gonna tell you, now I don't care if I have a double wide. I don't care if it caught fire tomorrow, we're gonna build something else, on top of this thing, concrete, and that's what he's doing. And you already have the foundation, so I don't understand what the first or second floor, what it matters. But say the taxpayer living next to him, I think I would rather have him build a duplex, and that's gonna make your property values go up. So, I mean, there again, it's just like, I don't think last name was anything, I ain't gonna use no names, but if it wasn't Blackburn, we wouldn't have this issue. So, that's all I got to say before I get wound up.
My name is Bill Pollock. I live at 27 Pollock Road. I have over 40 years experience in planning and zoning in very complex operations. I am chairman of the Somerset Township Planning Commission, and I've done a considerable amount of building and construction in Somerset as well as other parts throughout the United States. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't put a house in an M1 district. Zoning is there to protect, not to restrict. And looking at Somerset Township, this district was M1 to begin with because of the mine. The mine is no longer active. It's been closed since about 2010, but there's absolutely no reason to restrict. The Planning Commission unanimously approved the subdivision of the lot, the building of this, and there's no reason that you can't have a residential structure in an M1 zone. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
My name is Debbie Blackburn, 71 Route 10 Road. One thing I want to clarify is the address is actually considered Scenery Hill. It's listed as 84. I don't want anything to hiccup the process. We tried to go through the right channels and do this the proper way, and I agree that I think it's because of our last name. And I just appreciate your listening.
Dave Blackburn, 71 Route 10 Road. I would just like to know what's non-conforming here because it conforms with the entire neighborhood. A non-conforming use is something that if it doesn't conform, then it's non-conforming. We have houses all along that road. I don't understand why this hearing's even being held. One supervisor could have stopped all of this. One. Just said, give that boy his building permit. That's all he had to do. Even in the zoning. If it conforms with the neighborhood, it's okay. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, we're gonna give you. I'm gonna call you out. We're gonna have plenty of time to talk. And I don't want to call you guys up and go through everything. Hello. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Matthew Daly. I'm an attorney. I represent Hemlock Holmes and Chris Blackburn and his wife. Before, I think we're moving into the testimony phase of this proceeding. I wanted to allow the public an opportunity to speak prior to that. Okay? So again, I thank you for being here. I would like to make a brief record of some cases, very brief, and then I'm going to have them chat. First off, as to the ordinance itself, I just want to mention I maybe there might be a constitutional issue there, and I want to reference a non-conforming use cannot be limited by a zoning ordinance to the precise magnitude thereof, which existed at the date of the ordinance. It may be increased in extent by natural expansion and growth of trade. Neither is it essential that it is exercised at the time the ordinance was enacted should have utilized the entire tract upon which business was being conducted. That's the Humphreys versus Stewart Realty case at 364 PA 616, 73 A 2nd 407 on page 409 PA 1950. Citing Silver versus Zoning Board of Adjustment, 435. See also Silver versus Zoning Board of Adjustment, 435 PA 99, 255 A 2nd 506, PA Supreme Court 1969. Also, just one more. I'd also like to mention the Nettleton, Nettleton versus Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'll give this to you after. 45. At 575 PA 45, 828 A 2nd 1033, from Pennsylvania Supreme Court case 2002, citing Yawcombe zoning case 393 PA 148, so 141 A 2nd 601, Pennsylvania Supreme Court 1958, which essentially is held that proposed vertical additions would not have the effect of increasing the degree of nonconformity of the landowner's building. Sorry for the boring stuff. First, I'd like to call Brian Kennedy, who's going to describe for you what they're proposing to do, and so that you can hear from his own words what is going on with this property. Could you tell the board who you are and what you do for a living, sir?
Brian Kennedy. I'm a co-owner of Hemlock Homes. I do most of the residential building for the company. So a client approached us about roughly a year ago, maybe a little bit less than that, about taking their current modular home that sits on a conventional block wall foundation, removing the modular home from the top of it and then adding a two-story dwelling stick framed on top of that without expanding the living space beyond the foundation. That's what we intend to do. We came up with a design. We had it structurally engineered. We later found out the zoning issues that arrived with doing this.
One second. If it please the board, I'd like to give you copies of the plans that he's discussing.
Mark those as applicant's exhibit 1 for purposes.
We thought this would be in our packet.
Did you?
Thank you.
So they can discuss the plans, so that they have the plans in front of them. Let them know what you're talking about.
Right.
Please.
Yeah, so we've designed a home that fits on top of this conventional footing with stick framed truss roof. Tends to give the family more space to expand. Roughly 2,755 square foot is 2,145 square feet of actually total heated living space. two-car garage, kind of what they currently have is a two-car garage. We're not really changing that. Adds a larger family room, living room, and then bedrooms and a master suite on the second floor. Pretty conventional integral garage building that we build a lot of, but where this one's a little bit specialty designed. So we don't exceed the existing footprint of the house that's currently there.
Are you going up or are you going out?
We're going up 2 stories.
One other section of information to these folks know. What I mean to say is, explain how the footprint is not being expanded.
Right. So the only thing is maybe going outside the existing footprint is porches. So we have some porches that are adding on to wrap around the house. That's really the only ones that go above and beyond. But those would be non-dwelling areas. So that would be on the rear and the front and the side of the home.
If the board finds that a variance is necessary, let's talk about some of those things. Would it be an undue hardship on the Blackburns not to grant them this variance?
I would say yes.
Have the Blackburns done anything to put themselves in this situation?
No. They do not.
Assuming that the property is not in an A1 district, as mentioned by some of the public commenters, variance would be necessary. Why would a variance be necessary? Assuming that it's in
I would suggest because it's not a non-commercial property, correct? So then it would be non-conforming. You can't alter a M1 if it's a residential building in an M1 to make it non-conforming. You can't make it non-conforming again. Right? You can't go from building a new one and make it non-conforming. If that makes any sense. Not really.
Let's talk about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Are there other homes that are similar to the proposed home that you want to construct for Mr. Blackburn?
Of course, their neighbors spoke here earlier, and most of the whole street is residential.
Hold on one second. Additional photographs.
Mark those as applicants exhibit 2 for purposes of the record.
Direct your attention to the red dot. Is that where their home is located?
Yes.
Okay. And these other homes that you see, this is indicative of what the neighborhood looks like.
Correct.
Okay. You don't have any idea how far away the railroad is?
I do not.
It's not next. It's not right by the yard, is it? One more time.
Sure. Photo will be applicants exhibit 3. Is this a different photo?
That's a different photo. It's from farther out. I make the representation that the red line, the red highlighted line on these photos is where the railroad is actually located. Coming forth.
Sorry, counsel. I don't know. I'm looking at the exact same photo.
No, I don't think. Let me see. I think it's a little bit farther out.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
That's all I'm saying. The second purpose of the second photo is to show you where that red line shows you where the railroad is. And it will go to the argument as to why this is not, in fact, in an M1, zoned M1 area.
The railroad doesn't even work anymore, right?
I believe the distance from the railroad, which would be construed as M1, is 250 feet, and that their property is 259 feet away. So I'm making the argument that it should be construed as an A1 property, and that a variance wouldn't even be necessary for them to do what they want to do. what I'm trying to get at. And Mr. Blackburn will get into that.
Counsel, I just want to make sure we have an accurate record. I'm looking at the photo Mrs. Laura's looking at, and I'm looking at my photo. It's definitely not the same photo. So I want to make sure I'm putting the same.
I'm
Mine is
sorry,
exactly-
perhaps I
mine is
handed you
exactly
the
the
wrong
same.
one.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have the right.
No, I apologize. Is that different?
Yeah, this is what I need. Thank you.
I-
That's what you've been talking about.
That's my mistake. Thank you for clarifying
Sure.
that for me, sir. Okay. This is a bigger picture showing a broader view of where his home is in relation to the railroad. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Getting back to the idea that this could potentially be construed as an M1 just for the sake of saying why a variance is necessary. The last couple of questions on my hand. If a is this the minimum type of variance that would afford him the opportunity to build out bedroom for his upcoming child?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you would like to tell the board about this situation that will help them make their decision?
Not particularly, but I feel like this, if we're talking about like a hardship, if this is creating, like, their hardship is that if they now would have a home that's in a district or a zoning district that puts them, they could potentially have somebody purchase land next to them off of their neighbor, Mr. Blackburn, or anybody else, and create, they could put a machine shop there. They could put anything else there. It leaves them to be vulnerable with it being as a M1 zoning district, in my opinion, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
I'd like to make a clarifying comment on the M1 district if I can.
Go ahead.
Again, my name is Bill Pollack. I'm chairman of the Somerset Township Planning Commission. I'm also very familiar with the status of this mine. I actually negotiated with Murray to do a reclamation project on it. The mine is closed. It's not only closed, it had a $40 million reclamation bond on it. That bond is being executed. The storage silos are being torn down. The only reason this is M1 is because of that mine. Because this is not an industrial district, other than the fact that the mine was a very significant facility in Somerset Township. They zoned this as mine. The railroad is closed. The mine is closed. It's being reclaimed. It's not going to open. So this should not even be an M1 district, because the only reason it was M1 was because of the mine, which is now closed and being reclaimed. But as I stated earlier, we see that there's no reason or problem in having a house in M1 anyway. But this shouldn't even be an M1 district. So I think that should be considered as well.
Excuse me. Question.
Yes, Judy.
Why didn't we change it when we did zoning?
The rezone was done before. We did the last rezone around the 2010.
I'm talking about this zoning that we just did.
That was not a rezoning. That was sold as simply updating the standards. So that was sold from day one. That it was not a rezoning. So rezoning was not on the table. But this was, that's the only reason this is M1. It's not on a major road. It's in the middle of the township. They gave the mine everything because the mine was very significant to the township. This was a railroad spur. The railroad is closed. So there's no industrial activity. So if we were to go back and rezone this, we would not rezone this as M1. We would rezone this as an A1 or an R1 district. But again, I think that's significant to be considered, but that's the reason that was not a rezoning that we just did. That was just an update. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Calling Mr. Blackburn so he can explain to you the purpose of what he's doing there, so he can tell you why this matters to him. Please go ahead, sir.
Chris Blackburn, 79 Route 10 Road. The reason for this, my wife and I have one child now. He just turned 3 years old. We're expecting another one in October, on the 23rd of this month. We started the process earlier this year with Hemlock to expand our living space, to go up and gain some more room for ourselves and our kids. Everything was going good until it wasn't. So.
I know you've heard some various comments about how it should not be an M1 district. I do want to ask you a question about, has the measurement been taken from the railroad to your property?
I personally did not take the measurement, but I know that it was 259 feet from the nearest point of the tracks to my house.
All right. If you want to tell this board anything else that they need to know.
I hope the decision's right, whatever way it is. I mean, I hope it's on our side. I don't feel that it's non-conforming. I think it's unfortunate we're all here. The permit was good once. The house was there. The foundation's there. Why it's not good now is beyond my knowledge. But I hope with the choices you guys make, with the comments of everybody else here, I just hope it's the right one.
Thank you. If I could briefly summarize, less than 2 minutes. I think it's very important for the board to keep in mind many of the comments that you've heard, and including the testimony that this property is more than 250 feet away from the railroad, which is, I believe, the basis, the only other basis there could be that this is an M1 district. Heard a past code officer who says that this is in fact an A1 district. If you construe this property as being on an A1 designation, then there is no need for a variance. There is no need to do any of it. And my client would not have to make any burden of proof to you to establish that his appeal was appropriate, and that he should just be allowed to get the building permit as it is an A1 property. And as it's an A1 property, he can expand this in along with the neighborhood as it is. Now, just for the sake of argument, assuming that it is an M1 property, I believe we've met our burden to show that it would be an unnecessary hardship upon him to not grant this variance. It would conform with the residential nature of of the neighborhood that he lives in, and it would it's a minimum variance that would afford him the relief, and the physical circumstances require that a variance be given to him. Furthermore, the hardship is not self-inflicted. Finally, I would also point out that I believe Pennsylvania law compels with the conclusion that he's allowed to continue this construction. We're going up, not out. When you go up, it is not an increase of a non-conforming use. And I know the particular provision that was relied upon to deny him his building permit said that they were expanding his non-conforming use. Well, Pennsylvania law would disagree when you're going up and not out. So for all of these reasons, I would urge you to allow Mr. Blackburn and his family to continue building the home so that he can have a place to house his growing family. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you.
Any of the board members have any questions for anyone?
I don't have any questions.
Judy?
No.
To create the record, we should probably have the zoning officer give the reasons for their denial and state their side of the record so that we have a proper record of this hearing. By recommendation.
Good evening, board members. Peter Greed. My reasons are stated in the denial letter. I mean, the reasons for us being here is pretty straightforward. I received a building permit last spring, and looking at the map, it was pretty clear to me that the M1 district extends across on both sides of Route 10 Road all the way up to 917. So that puts it in the M1 district. Next thing I do is go to the use chart, and single family dwelling isn't in the use chart. So as you guys already know, that makes it become a non-conforming use by definition. So I went to the non-conforming use section, which I supplied with you guys in your packet, and it clearly states that I'm supposed to refer it to you. So that's why we're here. It's that simple. There's no animosity toward anybody in this room. I've never had a conversation with Chris. I did have a conversation with Ryan that was up here as his contractor. He contacted me and asked me what the problem was. I explained it to him, pretty much what he said tonight. And I told him I'm going to have to refer it to the zoning hearing board, and they just have to apply for a variance. And that's what we did, and that's why we're here. As part of the application you guys also received was their response. I don't blame them for responding. Their arguments are fine. It's clear in the ordinance why I had to bring it in front of you guys, and it's up to you to make the choice or the decision. If you guys, I don't know how to word that, I guess, reverse my denial, then he'll get an issued a permit, and we'll be happy to go forward with his building permit. But I didn't have a choice as far as I read the ordinance. That's why we're here. It's that simple. It's black and white.
I'll just ask for the record, Mr. Grieve, was this hearing advertised as required?
Yeah, I have those as exhibits. I have the posting both in the paper, on the property, and the bulletin board here.
We'll introduce those at the Township's Exhibit A.
Yeah, I have actually quite a few of them, quite a few different exhibits if you want to do that now.
Yes, go ahead. What do you
Okay.
have?
So, let's see.
We'll have the proof of advertising.
You wanna look at these? Yeah.
We'll have the proof of advertising and posting of the property as Township Exhibit A.
Okay.
What you mentioned first.
Sure. So, this is the posting of the property. I can't read that. This is that's the picture of the property. And that's legal notice that we posted in the paper. I believe, yeah, there's a receipt of that. So I'm going to put that on as one exhibit. I'm not objecting to these. Okay.
Will you just identify him loudly enough that the court reporter and did you hear him? I didn't.
Did you get it?
I got it, but he went.
I have, quite simply, I have a receipt from the Observer Reporter, what was posted in the paper, along with the actual notice. I have a picture of the posted property when the township posted it, and then just a copy of what was on that yellow paper.
And those will be combined then as Township.
Yeah, I didn't know how you wanted to do that. I can label
We
that
can do them
as
as one exhibit.
Okay. All right. Tim was kind enough to give me stickers. That'll be exhibit number 1.
A.
A?
Yeah, the applicant did numbers, you're doing letters.
That's fine. I need a flat piece of, put that right there. Okay. The second one I have is the application. Just a building permit application that the board received to review. Yeah, that's basically it, and it's 5 pages. Basically the application I had.
What I'm looking at here, Pete.
Yes.
No objections?
No objections to that.
That'll be Township Exhibit B.
That's just, and C would be the denial letter. With that is the ordinance sections that I cited both in the denial letter and for the benefit of the board, which has the section for variances and non-conforming uses, and then the actual use chart of 4 pages.
Objection. The Township Exhibit C.
And then this is just their application for the zoning for the hearing tonight, which is the Blackburn's one-page application and 1 page of their narrative.
That'll
Okay.
be marked as Township Exhibit D.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Redundant. Yeah. Oh, that's same thing. Permit application already. Sorry. Had it all together before I did it. That's the zoning hearing board. Oh, just that's just my denial letter by itself. That shouldn't be in that paper, but that's what happened. This is redundant. And then I have my denial letter, just a single page.
Okay, that'll be Township Exhibit E.
All right.
All right, E.
A, B, C, D, E, E, S. I think that's it for exhibits.
Do you have any other testimony?
Not unless they have questions for me.
I do have questions just to clarify some things for the record. As the representative of the township, have you been advised by the supervisors or any member of the community of any objections to this variance?
Not at all.
That's all I have.
Okay. I'll get these to you at the end of the hearing.
The board have any questions, Greg? For the zoning officer? Do you have something you want to say? Mr. Ivory would also like to make.
Harold Ivory, Municipal Consulting Service, Zoning and Building. I just wanted to mention one thing. It's already on his denial letter. The zoning officer cannot change the zoning. He has to literally enforce what's read. And the section that was written says a non-conforming use may be continued, but may not be extended, expanded, or changed unless to a conforming use. That's all I have.
We'll note for the record, that is the wording of the ordinance. Anything, do you have any other questions, or does the board have any other questions?
No questions. I have a few questions. The map you're referring to, Pete, is the Somerset Township zoning map of 2008, prepared by Chester Engineering. That's the map.
Yeah, it's the one that's online.
Yeah, that's the map we've been using for the last 16 years. But in 2014, we redid this map. The new map was done. We rezoned it. And part of the rezoning was to make the Bear property from B1 to M1. Roger Rainey was part of that. I was part of that. Barry Krumrein was part of that. We had a table set up in the front of this room. Registered letters went out to all the interested parties and neighbors. Nobody objected. And that's when we rezoned that to M1. And there was other changes on that map too, which in February 2023, we had a zoning hearing board meeting here. And the map, my 2014 map, was in conflict with what we were looking at for the party there. And when I brought that in to draw attention to the supervisors, somehow my map from 2014 disappeared. So for the last 20 months, I've been playing whack-a-mole with everybody in this office about getting my map back. And for some reason, they didn't want to return it. I don't know what it is. I can speculate on that. But it seems to be that everything that was done before the current administration came in is nullified. So if it came before, then it's no good. But back to this map, Pete. The map and the map that the council showed with the red line on it doesn't show the spur on it. There's a spur where railroad comes up across, and a junction, there's a spur there. So when the coal cars used to come out of Mine 60, they would come out to Cokeburg Junction, and they would back the field cars up on the spur, up Route 10 Road. They would leave them there, and another train would come up with empties, take them up to be loaded. Engine would come back to the spur, hook those up, take them back. But the spur hasn't been used. The railroad tracks hasn't been used. In fact, I have property that borders the railroad tracks. And I know that my property is not in M1 just because I border the railroad tracks. But, and in fact, the railroad tracks have been defunct for, I don't know when the last load of whole coal came out. It had to be 15 years, but the ties have been removed, the rails have been removed, the ties are crossed, nothing to go across there. There's 15-foot sycamores growing out in the middle of the tracks. Nobody's ever going to use those tracks again. So when I knew this was what was happening here, I took it on my own volition to go out and measure things. So I measured things on the map with the architect's rule, which showed the width of the M1 there to be 3/32 of an inch. And I also used a caliper to measure it on the map, and it showed it to be 0.093 inches. So I understand a railroad right-of-way is 50 feet. So if the caliper is right, and the width of that M1 there is 186 feet at 0.93, where 1 inch is 2,000 feet, that would be 186 feet. The width would be M1 right there. And I also went to Google Earth and measured the distance from the road to Mr. Blackburn's house, both with a rangefinder and Google Earth, came out to be 84 feet. Then from the road to the far side of the tracks was another 175 feet with my rangefinder and also with Google Earth. Total of 259 feet. So if the width of the M1 there, that shows Route 10 Road to be on both sides of Route 10 Road. But interestingly enough, the railroad tracks are not shown on this map. But if you go to the county tax map, it's shown on there. Because I checked that on my county tax map before I came here today. So if we do the math, that you have a 259 feet total.
Railroad's on the map.
Not on this map.
Kind of hard to see on that scale, but it's on the map.
Well, this is what we're referencing here today.
It's a bigger scale in the office as well. It's on there, but your contention is that the M1 isn't on both sides of the road?
No, I'm saying it is, but I'm saying that Chris's house is 73 feet away from the end of the M1. Because the M1 is 186 feet wide, and the distance from the furthest point of the M1 to his house is 259 feet. So that his house is 73 feet from the M1.
How far is it from the road? It's on both sides of the road. It's on the road.
What I'm saying, it's 186 feet. 186 feet. The M1 is 186 feet wide. His house is 259 feet away from the furthest end of the M1.
The way I read the map is it goes from the creek bottom there, the railroad bed, the bottom, up the hill, across the road, into the other side of the house, or the other side of the road, 497.
So you're saying the M1 goes all the way to the creek bed?
Just the railroad line, and it looks like they used the railroad line as the line for the dividing line for the M1. That's what this map represents to me.
What about the creek bed? You just said something about the creek bed.
Well, it's right next to the railroad line there. Bottom.
That's much further distance away. That's,
I'm just telling you how I determined that they were in M1. Joe's Route 10 Road goes right up through the middle of M1.
well, if it is the middle, it's 186 feet wide. Have you measured that? Well, I did. I used Google Earth.
Well,
I used Google Earth. There's nothing more accurate than that. I used my own rangefinder. I measured it. That's something that you should be doing. That's
it's
not my
on both
job.
sides of the road. Their property
It goes
is on both
across
sides
the
of
road, but it's only, the end of the M1 is 73 feet from his house.
This property is not on both sides of the road. I guess 2 acres are on the lower side of Route 10 Road.
So the question is this actually M1 or is it A1? I mean, that's something
Based on
that
this
has to
map
be,
that I was looking at, I determined that properties in the M1 district.
according to Google Earth and my rangefinder, it's out of M1.
I would disagree with that determination.
Try to clarify things for the record here because we're getting very bogged down. Mr. Spridick, are you stating that the Blackburn property is partially in M1 and partially in A1, and where the houses reside is situated as in A1? Is that what your contention is?
No, I'm saying that his house is 73 feet away from M1. If the, according to this map and according to Google Earth, that 259 feet total from the road to the far side of the tracks. The from the road to the house is another 84 feet. From the road to the far side of the tracks is 179 feet. So that's a total of 259 feet. So that means his house is 73 feet away from the nearest M1 designation. I mean, I did it three different ways. I measured with a rule, caliper, Google Earth, and I did it with a rangefinder. And being that I grew up in the area and I have property that is right across the road from there, I know what the neighborhood is. And the only reason that was A1 because that spur came up around there. And this map isn't even accurate because it doesn't follow the spur. It goes the other way. So, regardless of what we have here, we have a question whether this is M1 or A1. And regardless, if it is M1, then it's our duty to either grant or deny a variance. But that's why I'm making the point. It's not M1, it's A1. It has been, it always has been. There have been 9 different building permits along that road in the last 10 to 15 years granted because it's A1. I know one person had 3, another guy had 1. And if you follow this M1 all the way out Waring Road to the mine, Debbie's father had built 3 buildings there in the last 5 years. And his buildings are 50 feet away from the tracks.
I believe their house to be between the tracks at the lower bottom of the road, correct?
Pardon me?
Their house is located between the tracks and the road, correct?
Chris's house?
Yes.
His house is in between the tracks and the road. You mean the tracks that on where, across Pigeon Creek?
Set of tracks are shown on both maps. Across, they go, I don't know what direction this one is. It comes up, parallels Hickory Road, follows Larry Road for a little bit, then swings up and goes behind or on the lower side of Rutan Road for a little ways. I believe it goes out to Hooper. Railroad bed is showed there.
You're talking about the spur. I don't know what you're talking about. You can't see it on the phone.
That's what I'm showing. That's how I made my determination. I believe his house is right there. This is the road. Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Hey guys, be quiet, please.
This is how I made the determination. I believe this is the representative railroad line there. And then it turns into a blue line because they covered it. That's what and quite honestly, I don't know how that's A1. I'm not going to offer any testimony here. I know it's the township's position that it's M1. I believe that the zoning board is the fact finder and it's their prerogative that they make the determination. A1, I will just remind the zoning board that it's their prerogative to determine facts in this case, and what's M1, what's not A1, etc. That's the only thing I'll remind. And here is the location of the home for reference.
I don't see any railroad tracks on here, Pete. There's no railroad tracks. All this looks the same. All that blue line the whole way around.
That mark.
That's not railroad tracks.
What kind of railroad line there? Again, the house is between the railroad tracks, which is consistent with this map.
Go back to Google Earth. That map.
The line.
All right, here's the tracks
the
here,
road.
right? Here's the house here, right? And this distance here is, what did I tell you it was? Of the railroad tracks? The house? 175 feet. I mean, from the road to the railroad tracks, it's 175 feet. From here to here. That's 175 feet. And from the house to the road, from the house to the road is another 84 feet. So that's a total of 259 feet. So Chris's house is 73 feet away from the M1. This map shows it. It shows it.
The road clearly goes.
We're
right
not
through
looking
the
at
middle.
that map. That don't matter.
That
Go
is
back
the
to
zoning
Google
map.
Earth.
That's
Go
the
back to
zoning-
Google Earth.
I can't make its determination on Google Earth. I make a
Maybe you should
determination
be.
off the zoning map.
Maybe you should be.
I didn't make the colors on the map. Somebody else did. I'm just making a determination where that road goes. It lies right in the middle, right up through there. The M1 district is on both sides of the
The
road.
Google Earth map reinforced what I just said, Pete.
How so? Because you measured?
Because Google Earth
Clearly on
measured
the-
it.
Look, I don't want to argue with you. He's correct. You're the finder of fact. If you find that fact, put it in the record and make your determination. Or just give them the variance. I don't really, it doesn't matter to me. I didn't make the lines on the map.
I made my determination based on the map that I looked at.
As council has accurately stated, it is the role, the board is the finder of fact here. We've heard the testimony of the zoning officer. We've heard the testimony offered by the applicant. You all can determine what you'd like to determine. If you'd like a legal opinion from me, or maybe even if you wouldn't, I'll offer you one because that's my job. I believe that granting of the variance is appropriate for two reasons. First, as council outlined, there is Pennsylvania case law which would indicate that a vertical expansion of a non-conforming use, in fact, is not considered an expansion of a non-conforming use. So for that reason in and of itself, I believe you could grant the variance. Another secondary reason you could grant the variance is there is some precedent set in the township for granting minimal expansions of non-conforming uses. In fact, you did so just last year right here on Scott Road at a hearing in this very room where you had granted a de minimis expansion of a non-conforming use when there was no objection and it didn't change the nature of the neighborhood. So I believe without getting into the minutia of what the zoning is, and that's something I think maybe the supervisors need to take up and looking at their maps and looking at their ordinances, that there are grounds if the board is so inclined to grant the variance on legal grounds for the reasons that I've stated. But you all, that's my opinion. You all have to do what you think. Yeah, Greg's the chairman, I guess.
I make the motion that we grant the permit to the Blackburns, and that we also need to get a change in that zoning.
Well, if you want to make that recommendation, make that part of a separate.
Okay.
And Mrs. Laura's made a motion to approve the variance request.
I second that.
Second by Mr. Rain. Take a roll call, Greg.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. The variance we authorized will not alter its essential character of the neighborhood or district is located, nor permanently impair the public use of development. That
It will not alter.
It will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located.
And as is our practice, councils, if you've not been here before the board before. I'm sorry, Kim.
Character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located.
I think Greg's trying to spell out the criteria for the variance. So the reason that the variance is granted is that there are 5 criteria that the board has found that the applicants meet, and I'll read those off to you. That there are unique physical circumstances or conditions, including irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness of lot size or shape, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the particular property, and that the unnecessary hardship is due to such conditions and not the circumstances or conditions generally created by the provisions of this chapter in the neighborhood or district in which the property is located. Get that part? Okay. 2, that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, there is no possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of this chapter, and that the authorization of a variance is therefore necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. 3, that such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. 4, that the variance, if authorized, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property, nor be detrimental to the public welfare. And 5, that the variance, if authorized, will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and will represent the least modification possible of the regulation in issue. Is that the long-winded version of what you were trying to say, Greg?
That's it, right here. Copy that? And if I may, I'd like to make a recommendation too. Being that there's a question as to whether this is really M1 or A1. I make a recommendation that the Board of Supervisors refund the $600 fee that the builder had to pay for this hearing. Should have never been here. The questions around it were just, well, you heard everybody's testimony here today. That is my recommendation, that this fee be refunded. Is there anything further?
That's up to the Board of Supervisors. The board can certainly make that recommendation if they want. I will indicate that I believe that the statement of the zoning officer that they're obligated to enforce the ordinance as it's written is their obligation. However, the supervisors can refund a fee if they're so inclined, if that's what the board wants to recommend. You want to make that in the form of a motion, Greg?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
Somebody second the motion on Greg's recommendation to the supervisor?
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You abstain or you in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, thank you.
If you don't have anything else, you can conclude the hearing and adjourn.
That's it.
We need to approve the minutes. We need to.
No, you need to approve the minutes of your last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, approval of minutes of zoning hearing board reorganization meeting January 22nd, 2024. Need a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. We approve the minutes.
Second? I'll second that. And the adjournment time is 7:13 p.m. Motion to adjourn. I'll make that motion.
A second.
All right, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
You need to see this.
I read it off to her. She got it down.